I have here a selection of awesome flashlights with a difference. Each light in this lineup has a unique feature or superpower that makes it a bit special. Now I've got 6 lights to go through here, so this is not intended to be an in-depth review of each light, but more of a quick overview to whet your appetite. And if you do want to find out more, I'll put links in the description down below. And for each light I'll show a brief nighttime outdoor shot in the same location at full power so you can see how they compare. Okay, first up I have the Fenix LD12R. This is a compact light from Fenix, and what makes this one different is a discreet but functional inbuilt side light. So in addition to a decent main beam, you have an ambient light to light up an area like a tent or a room with a flat non-focused light. Now the maximum output of the main beam, which we see here with our outdoor shot, is 600 lumens, which is pretty reasonable considering the size of this light, and the deep polished reflector here makes the best of it, providing a good balance of range and light spread. That range incidentally is quoted at 186 meters, which in practical terms will be more like a quarter of that. And if you want to know why that is, I'll provide a link to a video at the end of this one which explains the exaggerated range calculation that all flashlights use. Now we have here a single tail switch which still allows the light to tail stand, and that's a useful benefit when it comes to that side light. And the operation with this light is straightforward and intuitive, apart from one thing, which is when you switch between the dual light sources, and that requires you to simply untwist and retighten the head, and then it switches over. And that's something you would never guess and is a bit strange, but it does seem to work. The main light has 4 light levels which you step through in sequence from 1 lumen to 600, and at 30 lumens, which is just enough to get you home, that runtime quoted is a useful 16 hours, but a more usable 150 lumens can be expected to last a much more modest 3 hours. The side light has 3 light levels, starting with 5 lumen. Then you have 30 lumens, which has a quoted runtime of 14 hours, and 100 lumen, which drops to 4 hours. The runtimes I would say are okay considering the battery used here, which is a relatively small 800 milliamp hour 14500, and this is the same size as a standard AA battery, which actually can also be used with this light, although there will be a noticeable drop in output and runtimes. It is though a nice option to have as a backup. And if you want to see those detailed runtimes and outputs with the different battery types, then just pause this chart here. As you can see, the main battery is quite small when compared with the overall size of the light, and we can see that in those reduced runtimes at higher outputs. And I personally would prefer to see a bigger battery if I'm carrying around a light of this size. Other things worthy of note are a hidden and protected USB-C charging port, which appears when you fully unscrew the head. We also have a full IP68 dust and waterproof rating and a magnetic pocket clip, which works well, but to me looks a bit clunky. Overall then, we have great quality, easy operation, dual fuel, average runtimes, and that useful side light. And as far as the price goes, expect to pay around £60 or dollars. This is the Manker Striker Mini, and this also uses the MN14500 AA size battery that we saw in the Fenix, but this one has a larger capacity at 920 milliamp hour. Now you can see the battery here also has a USB-C charging port built in, and this has the benefit of removing a fault liability from the light itself and can reduce the overall length of the light too, as it no longer needs to find room for a charging socket, albeit this does come at the expense of some inconvenience in having to remove the battery to charge it. It's not a bad solution though in my book, and as you can see, this light is much shorter than the Fenix. Now this light has some other great features too. You'll notice we have a relatively large head on this light, which translates to a very impressive quoted range of 430 meters, which, as we've said before, won't be quite as much as that in practical use. However, for a light of this size and this battery type, it's the best I've seen. We then have this switchable stainless steel bezel, which can go from this to something much more aggressive like this, described for use in night combat and glass breaking. And if you're not in a combat role, I'd be a bit wary of carrying it around like this. You can though, of course, remove it altogether. We also have this nice two-way pocket clip, ideal for use with a baseball cap, and this tactical ring here to prevent the light from rolling away, with a couple of lanyard attachment points. Operation is super simple, using an easy access and very clicky metal tail switch, and you have just two light levels here. You've got 50 lumen and 635 lumen. Now a partial press will cycle through the two levels, and then a full press locks it on, and the light always comes on initially at the brighter level. The 50 lumen light level has a quoted duration of 6 hours and 30 minutes and is surprisingly bright for the power on offer here, and that's aided by a tight beam pattern with just a little bit of light spill. The 635 lumen maximum output we see here in this outdoor shot has that excellent range, and like most lights, this is for relatively short burst use only and will drop down in power after around 3 minutes to prevent overheating. It is though impressive for such a small flashlight. Now having just two light levels means you can easily jump from one to the other, and a quick double press will also bring on strobe, and that is aimed at self-defense. This light also has dual fuel capability like the Fenix, so it can use other AA batteries as a backup, again with reduced light output and duration, as we can see in this output chart, which you can pause here to explore in more detail. Other things worth mentioning are a full IP68 dust and waterproof rating and 7 tritium slots, if that's your sort of thing. Overall then, we have a great looking compact design, great quality, average battery duration, dual fuel, ease of use, and that rather strange bezel, and that really impressive range. And for this one, you can expect to pay around £50 or dollars. Now, before we look at the next flashlight, I'd like to introduce this week's channel sponsor, Ridge Wallet. Now, Ridge are a channel favourite, as their sole purpose, like mine, is to reduce bulk and friction with your everyday carry. And Ridge have achieved this by replacing that bulky old pocket stretching wallet that you've been using for decades with this sleek, stylish, minimal wallet that can hold up to 12 cards while staying as slim as possible. Very easy to access and feels great in the hand. Has RFID protection, room for cash, and even space for an AirTag with an optional attachment. Now, Ridge have over 30 designs that come in a range of materials, including ceramic powder and leather, and they have some new female-friendly designs on offer too. And that's not all. You can get a matching Ridge key case that looks just as stylish as your wallet and holds up to 6 keys and prevents your keys from jangling around in your pocket and jabbing you in the thigh. And if you buy the wallet and key case together, you can save up to 30%. Now, Ridge have over 3 million customers and over 100,000 5-star reviews, and now offer an extended 365-day risk-free trial, which means they will refund your wallet during that time if you don't love it, and they offer a lifetime warranty as well. And Ridge are celebrating 11 years in business and have great savings on offer for a limited time, with up to 30% off wallets and key cases and 20% off rings. Just use my unique code and get up to 30% off until April the 1st. And a huge thank you to Ridge for sponsoring this video. This is the Reylight Rook Vosteed edition, and it's designed to look like a chess piece and is the first collaboration between respected flashlight maker Reylight and quality knife maker Vosteed. This is more compact than the previous two lights, using a shorter and fatter 18350 battery, which also has a larger 1100 milliamp hour capacity. This one also has the USB-C charging socket built into the battery. Now the light source comes from a triple TIR crystal lens. TIR stands for total internal reflection and is a combination of reflector and lens, normally used to keep the light length quite short. And this one uses Nitecore 519 LEDs, and that outputs a very warm light at 4000 Kelvin. There is though a much whiter 6000 Kelvin XPL LED version available with a higher output, and I think that would be my preference. You control this light with a single aluminium tail switch, which also allows for tail standing. The TIR optic produces a wide light spread with no real beam to speak of. In fact, I couldn't find a beam distance quoted for this light, and you can see that with the outdoor shot here. The light covers a wide area but with a very limited reach, despite a maximum output of 1800 lumens. And the warm colour temperature of the Nitecore LEDs certainly doesn't help with the range either. When it comes to a minimum output, this drops right down to 0.5 of a lumen, which is proper moonlight mode and is always good to see. But what really sets this light apart is that it's programmable, which is something Rey are known for. And you can choose from 4 programs to determine how the power ramps up as you step through the 4 levels, one of which includes strobe and SOS modes. And you can also choose whether it goes from high to low or low to high, and whether it utilizes that moonlight mode and whether it memorizes the last used light setting or not. Now I have to say, I found the whole program selection process rather confusing, but there are some YouTube video explainers out there if you get as confused as I did. The quoted runtimes, as you can see on the chart, look really impressive. For example, a good light level of 360 lumen is expected to last a full 8 hours, although I have seen this challenged in testing, and I have to say this does seem very optimistic, so you might want to do your homework if you're tempted by this. Other points to note is that we have a very tough deep carry pocket clip, direct access to turbo, which I always like to see, and an IPX water resistance rating of 7, so you can get it wet but avoid submersion. And there are also a load of tritium slots if you have the tubes, and a host of different colours to choose from. So overall, we have a quality compact flashlight with moonlight mode and direct access to turbo to cover a wide area at short range. There are here questionable runtimes, and we do have the programming modes, which are pretty good if you're prepared to put in the time. As for the price, this one comes in at around £70 or dollars. This is the EDC33 and is the second Nitecore flashlight to feature the EDC label, and the first one, the EDC27, was one of my favourite flashlights of 2023, and this one seems pretty unique too. Now this is a traditional cylinder shape but with a new aggressive grip pattern that is starting to appear on the newer releases from Nitecore, and I personally find it a little bit fussy, but there's no doubt it offers a great level of grip. In here we have an 18650 battery, resulting in this very compact flashlight, and although it's a little larger in diameter, it's actually about the same length as the Fenix LD12 we saw earlier. The capacity of the battery is 4000 milliamp hour, the highest I've seen for this battery type, but there is a reason for that, and that is because the battery in here cannot be accessed and is therefore non-replaceable, which I know will be a deal breaker for many. The big news here though is that this light uses a new proprietary ultra high intensity Nitecore LED with 9 closely positioned emitters, a larger one in the center for beam and 8 smaller ones surrounding it for flood, and they produce a very powerful white light. Combined, the LED array kicks out a huge 4000 lumens, which Nitecore refers to as Lumen Shield, and this is available in short blasts to floodlight an area or for light defense to temporarily blind an attacker with what is described as a wall of light. And this is activated when you fully press and hold the tail switch, whether the light is already on or off. So that means you can get to this instantly. And if you half press and hold the tail switch, you get a 1700 lumen long throw beam for search. And that has a quoted range of 450 meters, which is an awful lot for a light of this size. Again, this is designed for short bursts only, but the fact that both of these modes can be accessed quickly and easily is, I think, a great feature. For more general use, a quick full press brings on the light as normal, and subsequent short presses steps through the 4 light levels outside of Lumen Shield and Search mode, starting at 5 lumens right up to 1200 lumens. And as for battery life, a very usable 300 lumens should last 7 hours, and a Get Me Home 70 lumen is good for an amazing 31 hours. And here is the output and runtime chart, so press pause here if you want to explore the numbers in more detail. And it doesn't stop there. We have a protected USB-C charging port with this rotating cover, a 4 LED battery level indicator which stays on with the light so you always know what the battery is doing, a hard lockout switch to avoid accidental activation which works a treat, and a sensor which reduces the brightness of the high light level if the lens is blocked for safety. We also have a tail switch which allows the light to tail stand, and a substantial pocket clip with a lanyard attachment point, and you do get a lanyard included, but unusually not a pouch. Then we have military grade T6 aluminium construction, an optical glass lens, and full IP68 dust and waterproof rating. In fact, the only things missing in my view are a moonlight mode and direct access to the lowest light level when you don't want to draw attention to yourself. So here it is in action outside. This is in search mode, activated by a half press of the tail switch, delivering 1700 lumens of beam. And then there is the Lumen Shield mode, activated with a full press of the tail switch, which adds to that a blinding floodlight, providing an overall light output of 4000 lumens, which is seriously impressive for something this small. To sum up then, we have a top quality, very compact and extremely bright light, easy to use with great quoted runtimes, neat lockout switch, real-time battery level indicator, and innovative rotating USB-C cover, topped off with the unique instant access search and shield modes. So all in all, a fantastic light which I really like, although many, I fear, will have stopped watching when I uttered the words non-replaceable battery. As for the price, expect to pay around £75 or $70, which I think stacks up really well against what we've seen here so far. Okay, moving up again in battery size. This is the L1 from our friends at Wuben, and what makes this special is the double lens twisting light head we see here, with 2 different reflectors, one for beam and one for flood. And the head rotation means that either can face forward like a traditional flashlight, or operate at 90 degrees, say stood on a table or attached to something like a backpack strap. And the base is magnetic too, which provides for even more mounting options. Now the L1 uses a 4800 mAh 21700 battery and charges via a conventional USB-C flap. This USB-C socket can also provide output power, meaning that this can double up as a power bank with enough juice for at least one average phone charge. There are 2 switches here to keep things simple, one for each light, and each light operates independently, which means you can even have them both on at the same time. time. The switches are easy to press accidentally, so a quick quarter turn of the base acts as a useful lockout to prevent accidental activation. And we have here a substantial belt clip or pocket clip, although it sits low down, meaning that the light sits high on the belt. You do though get a belt pouch, which I think carries better. The quality of the light looks good and it all feels pretty substantial. The main light has 3 levels plus turbo, strobe and SOS, with direct access to low, which is good, and also direct access to turbo, which is good, although you do have to step through the light levels to get back to where you were from turbo, which is not so good. Turbo is quoted as 2000 lumens and high is 1000 lumens, although these are both for short bursts only, as they both drop down after about 30 seconds to the medium 320 lumen level, which to me makes the high setting somewhat redundant. That 320 lumen level is quoted as being good for 9 hours, and the low 35 lumen level is said to last 60 hours. The floodlight also has 3 levels, 1000 lumen, 380 and 25, again with 30-second bursts only on the high level before drop down, and again there is good battery life at the lower levels. And you have 2 LED options to choose from for the floodlight when you buy the light: a lower output Nitecore with better colour rendition, or a brighter whiter Osram, which is the one I have here. Again, I have the detailed output and runtime chart, so pause this now if you want the full lowdown. Let's have a quick look at this in action outside at night with the main beam at full power, so 2000 lumens, and the range quoted here is 350 meters. And then we have the wider floodlight at 1000 lumens with a quoted range of 100 meters, and so a very different light output. Other things to note is that we have full IP68 dust and waterproof rating, a basic battery level indicator LED, and quick charging. Overall, this seems well made, simple to use and bright, doubling up as a power bank and with direct access to low and turbo, and with these dual lights and the very useful 90-degree twist mechanism. And when it comes to price, I expect to pay around £65 or dollars. This next flashlight also uses a 21700 replaceable battery, and this is the Nitecore MH12 Pro, and this is another of the new releases from Nitecore with the new aggressive grip pattern we've seen on the EDC33. Now the LED used here is another ultra high intensity offering from Nitecore, this time with a single emitter capable of an impressive 3300 lumens maximum output and a maximum quoted range of 505 meters, which, don't forget, equates to a usable practical range of about a quarter of that, which I should say is still very impressive. Compared with the EDC33, we have a slightly larger and polished reflector and larger single emitter, which gives this one a slight range advantage. This light also has a tail switch, which is always a good option for ease of use and to avoid accidental activation, and this one also allows for tail standing on flat surfaces, which can be useful to light up a room. And you can see here that the MH12 Pro has a mode switch at the head of the light, and this is where it gets interesting. On either side of the rubberized switch, which is nice and clicky, you will notice we have 4 LED lights. The 4 on the left of the switch show the power level of the light through low, medium, high and turbo, and this is really useful because you can now see at a glance what power level you are using without having to cycle through the different light levels several times to work it out. And this stays on with the light, so it's always visible. The 4 LEDs on the right of the switch show the remaining battery level. Again, you can see at a glance what the battery is doing, and it might say encourage you to drop the power to extend the use or give you the confidence to increase it. This also stays on with the light as a constant reminder, which is ideal. And these lights have an additional benefit in that you can easily find this switch in the dark. So often with these sort of mode switches, you end up losing it and fumbling about trying to get it to come on. I'll put the runtime chart up now, so for those who want to explore the detail, pause it here. But we can see there are 4 main light levels, starting with 50 lumens, which is bright enough to get you home and should last 50 hours on a full charge. And a very usable 300 lumens is quoted to run for over 8 hours. And as always, the maximum output of 3300 lumens is for relatively short blasts. We also have direct access to a 1 lumen mode, which is great to see, and this has an impressive expected runtime of 650 hours. And there's also a strobe mode and a beacon mode, which I like, and an SOS mode, which will probably never be used. As you can see with the outdoor footage, the light level and range at maximum output is really impressive, with a great beam and a bit of useful light spill. And this has the furthest reach of any of the lights here. Other things to note are a two-way pocket clip, and you also get a sheath too. And the USB-C charging socket utilizes a rubberized flap, and this one consists of a rubber layer and a hard plastic layer, which makes it easy to put back into place. And the 21700 supplied battery is high capacity at 5300 mAh to support those impressive run times. So another fantastic light from Nitecore, great quality, great battery life, very easy to use, a moonlight mode, very bright with that really excellent range, and those always on indicator lights for power and battery life. As for price, expect to pay around £90 or dollars. And here are all the lights side by side if you wanted to compare the size. And then here are all the outdoor shots side by side so you can compare the light level and beam pattern. Now the ones here that really stood out for me were the Manker Striker Mini with that excellent range from such a small light, and both of the Nitecores really impressed, particularly the EDC33, which has now found its way into my rotation. And as promised, if you want to know why flashlight range appears so exaggerated than in real life, then I have a video which explains everything. And if you want to see some more pocket rockets, then I have a video for that too. I'll leave it there. Hope you found that interesting. If you're not already, please consider subscribing to keep up to date with more content like this. And thank you, as always, for watching.